Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Martina Lyons, and I'm from the IRENA Innovation and Technology Center in Bonn. Hopefully, most of you know who IRENA is, but in case not, we are an intergovernmental organization with currently 161 member countries and 22 countries in accession. We support countries in their transition to a sustainable energy future and serve as the principal platform for international cooperation, center of excellence, a repository for policy, technology, resource, and financial knowledge on renewable energy. Our analytical work and our engagement with our members generate a lot of valuable insights, and we are constantly looking for more ways to share those insights with all of you. That is why we launched a fortnightly IRENA Insights webinar program a few months ago. Every other week, presenters from one of IRENA's team, either alone or together with their guests or jointly with another organization, as it is the case today, will share with you key findings from their latest work, will offer you insights into opportunities, trends, best practices, but also innovative solutions to address various challenges. A small caveat, we aim to keep these webinars short, approximately 30 minutes maximum. So we cannot cover everything, but we do hope to give you enough to decide whether to delve deeper into the topic. And we signpost in our presentations further sources of more in-depth information to help you to do that. So today's webinar, Oceans Powering the Energy Transition, Progress through Innovative Business Models and Revenue Support, organized jointly with the Ocean Energy Europe, will discuss the role of oceans as a sustainable resource supporting the global energy transition. You will hear about the status of ocean energy technologies and the needed actions to reach their wide commercialization. The webinar will also shed light on promising revenue support mechanism and innovative business models such as hybrid technologies and complex sectors. So today's speakers are Ms. Alessandra Salgado and Ms. Judit Hecke, our IRENA ocean energy experts, and Mr. Rémi Gruet, who is the CEO of the Ocean Energy Europe. Their presentation will be approximately 20 minutes long to allow another 10 minutes for your questions. But before I hand over the microphone to Alessandra, Judit, and Rémi, I have a few housekeeping items to cover. Today's webinar will be recorded and available together with the presentation slides on IRENA's webinar website. The previous webinar recordings and slides are already there, and we invite you to visit them. The link to the website will be again shared with you in the follow-up email. All of you are currently muted, and you will remain so throughout the webinar. We would love to hear from you during today's presentation. So if you have any question to our speakers, please feel free to send it through the question feature that you can find on the webinar panel. We will be monitoring the questions throughout the session and select some to be answered by our speakers. Due to time constraints, we apologize in advance if your questions are not answered. You may also download the report from Ocean Energy Europe, on which this presentation is based on, and the presentation slides in the handouts section. If you experience any technical difficulties, please try to reconnect by dialing via phone. You can get the number by clicking on the phone option located on the webinar panel. Otherwise, please visit support service on the GoToWebinar website. So without any further ado, let me kick things off by welcoming Alessandra. Alessandra, over to you.
Thank you, Martina. Let me start with some general context, as we have participants from very different backgrounds. So at IRENA, we use the term marine energy, and this entails mainly three streams of power generation. So floating PV, offshore wind, and ocean energy. And what I want to emphasize today is that this webinar is mainly ocean energy. And as you can see, ocean energy technologies are basically categorized based on the resource they're using. So on the hand right side, there's a diagram that Judith, if you can help me to click on that one. Great, thank you. Then you can see that ocean technologies are mainly utilizing their sources from tides, converters that are using waves, and also we do have as well other technologies that are harvesting the temperature difference between the warm and the cold surface And finally, some other technologies that are looking into salinity gradient, that this is utilizing the difference in the ocean salt concentration. So, what I would like to now is, I would like to hang out now the presentation to Judit Hecke, and she will explain us more about the current status of ocean energy and some pathways that can contribute to its commercialization.
Thank you, Alessandra. Welcome also from my side. As just said, I will start with some information on the current deployment and outlook of the technologies. So at the moment, we have 535.1 megawatts of ocean energy that is deployed and operating in the oceans, with a large majority of it being tidal barrage or tidal range. This is the only ocean energy source that has already reached full commercial maturity. However, when we talk about ocean energy now, we usually don't emphasize this technology too much, and we focus more on the other four presented here, so tidal, stream, wave, OTEC, and salinity, that together make up around 13.5 megawatt at the moment. The largest share of it is tidal stream, followed by wave, which also corresponds to the technology readiness levels of the respecting technologies. However, we expect this number to rise substantially in the near future. So there's around 3.7 gigawatts of capacity in the pipeline at the moment. And this is also in line with IRENA's forecast that by 2030, around 10 gigawatts of ocean energy should be installed. Now I'd like to give you just some very quick sneak preview into some analysis that we're doing for our upcoming report. We don't have time to get into it too detailed, just to let you know what is expected. So we have analyzed active and announced capacities of different projects that are in the pipeline, and we have and there are around 24 megawatts of ocean energy currently being deployed this year. So 2020 is going to be a big year of ocean energy, and this is very important for the industry to showcase what is possible. We have also studied capacities of the different device kinds. So here, for example, for wave energy, the different kinds of devices that are present. We have looked at geographical data to see which countries are active in the sector. And we have also looked into patents to analyze which countries are most active in research. As mentioned, more information on this will be in our upcoming report. If you have any questions now, feel free to contact us. Due to the novelty of the technology in the past, emphasis has been placed a lot on research and development. However, now that we are reaching technical maturity and we have seen successful scale testings, the most vulnerable point is not anymore the development, but more the capital costs. So a stronger emphasis is needed to improve the economic case. We are here working on different business models that leverage synergies with related markets to allow projects to become more viable and to bring down costs. So some of these ideas of coupling technologies would be to couple ocean energy with other renewable sources, because ocean energy is much easier predictable and can thus it's thus ideal to complement other renewable energy sources like less predictable wind or solar power. Ocean energy can also be used to power other offshore sectors, and islands presents one such ideal market to enter for ocean technologies, because both of these coupling technologies are very well available and other preconditions apply that are ideal for ocean energy. So now let's just quickly get into each of those. So on the one hand, we have the coupling with the renewable energy sources. Here we have a matrix that summarizes the different hybrid systems. So looking, for example, these are all systems that are currently deployed or in planning. And if you, for example, look, you can see that there is a tidal plant that has connected with storage and a microgrid and has already been tested in Canada. Or it can be seen that wave energy can play a key role for microgrids, especially if connected with PV and storage. So ocean energy is not necessarily a standalone source of energy, but it is ideal to interact with other renewable energy sources that are at the same location. And as such, it can help to balance the grid by complementing the variability of such other renewable energy sources. One such example would be the Faris project, where an energy provider and a tidal developer have joined forces to look into building a hybrid renewable power system to replace the currently very high carbon system that is present. So they're planning on deploying 2 horizontal axis tidal turbines and to link that with a wind turbine, with a solar array, with some storage, and to put this all together in a mini grid. So projects like this are already existing and in operation and planning. Now to the other side of the blue economy. Blue economy is a term that focuses on the economic growth of offshore sectors through a sustainable use of the ocean resources. And these sectors can go from more traditional sectors such as desalination or oil and gas into more emerging sectors such as aquaculture or even underwater vehicle charging. But all of these sectors are expected to grow substantially in the future. So these are all very power intensive. So ocean energy can play a significant role in powering these sectors. Many ocean energy developers have also recognized such opportunities and have tailored their devices specifically to power one or multiple such sources, which is here presented in this matrix. There are also some examples presented. For example, the first 2 are wave energy, are floating wave power structures that are incorporated in an aquaculture cage, or we have wave power that is focused on providing power for services of oil and gas platforms, or we can even power offshore data centers. So beyond actually physically sinking such sources, we can also use the expertise that other industries have made in similar environments. Like oil and gas and also offshore wind have so much experience in such environments that they can share their knowledge on the materials or R&D processes, and can also share resources such as infrastructure, such as vessels or even port space, or it is even possible for ocean energy to share the grid connection with offshore wind power. So ocean energy can work in harmony with many different sectors of the blue economy or of other renewable energy sectors. And we believe that this can play a very important role to help reach commercialization and to enable wider deployment of ocean energy technologies. And now I'd like to give the word back to Alessandra, who will come with some concluding remarks.
Thank you, Judit. And we put together a slide for you with the key messages you can take from this presentation. And in terms of technology and market that Judith just presented, we see still that there are many different technology designs out there. And the question is if the market will go towards the technology convergence as Tidal is starting to do. And also we're standing in front of a sector that is taking off. So today, in 2020, we see they already announced 25 megawatt of new ocean deployments, but most importantly, is this pipeline capacity that is almost 4 gigawatts. As well, in commercialization, we see that it's needed new ways to decrease the cost of these technologies. And this is why more attention is given now into new business models. And as well, a very important point is about the key actors, and ocean energy is one of those key actors in the blue economy, and is needed to unleash those synergies with all the other offshore sectors, and at the same time, explore the opportunities for islands. Finally, support and policies, and we didn't touch into this in this presentation, but we would do in our report. And for a global adoption of this technology, is very important there is a proper resource assessment and a spatial planning from countries. If this is not there, it's not possible to develop ocean technologies properly. And one crucial point, policy and revenue support. Today, Rémi would spend today on the last one on revenue support. And finally, we want to invite you to reach out to IRENA. As I like to say, IRENA is strengthening their work in this area, and international cooperation continues to be critical. So please reach out to us. We're happy to tell you more about our cooperation activities, and we will also be happy to hear more about your experience and work on the field. Now I'll pass the presentation to Rémi Gruet, and Rémi, now back to you.
Thank you, Alessandra. Good morning, everybody. You should be able to see my screen by now. My name is Rémi Gruet. Indeed, I'm the CEO of Ocean Energy Europe. We are the association representing the ocean energy sector, which is wave, tidal, OTEC, and salinity gradient. We do not take care of offshore wind. To give you an overview of our membership, it's about 120 members, and it spans the entire sector from universities to test centers, from device manufacturers to project developers. We have utilities, we even have some regions who have identified ocean energy as a great source of potential jobs and wealth. So we also have a number of members well beyond Europe, in the US, in Canada, in Australia. So we're basically the largest global network of ocean energy professionals. And I want to start by talking about why we think ocean energy is the next big thing. So the first point is really this job aspect. Obviously, we are maritime industries, so there will be jobs in coastal regions, but we also have a number of supply chain elements that can be done much further inland, for example, in Austria, as you will see in the next slide. Like Judit already mentioned, it's very flexible and predictable. We position ourselves very much as a complement to wind and solar, because by now we know that the future electricity grid will have a very high component of wind and solar, because they will be in many, many countries the cheapest technologies to build. So both are variable, and we will need storage, we'll need demand response, but we'll also need other technologies like wind, ocean energy, which can produce at different times from wind, and then smooth out the production peaks throughout the day. A final point is probably simply the great potential. 100 gigawatts is what we think we can install in Europe with current technology, so it might increase in the future. And to give you an idea, that's about 10% of the EU's current electricity consumption, or about 100 million households. Globally, we could do about 3 times this, and depending on how much your electricity consumption is in the area of the world, obviously it could be 3, 4, or 5 times more households. Now, I'm going to focus on Tidal and Wave for this presentation because they're the most advanced technologies. We've heard from Judit already that there was a good pipeline. This is a historical vision of what was installed. You can see the 3 main years where we've installed actually the first pilot farms of Tidal. They've been installed in Europe. And I wanted to tell you a bit about them because these Tidal farms actually started producing power in 2015. And by now we've crossed the 50 gigawatt hour landmark just earlier this year in January. And we were just short of that end of 2019. When we published our statistics, you can find them on the website as well. So the farms that are producing this is one of them. It's the CIMEC Atlantis Maiden farm based in Scotland. You can see on the picture one of the devices that is currently underwater generating power. There are 3 others that have been manufactured by a different company called Hundreds, which is based in Austria. So again, there is plenty of opportunities in the supply chain for landlocked countries. This is a regional industry, and when I mean regional, I mean across a number of countries around installation sites. A different device from orbital power. This is a floating device. It has 2 arms with 2 turbines of 1 megawatt attached to it. Underneath, it's a turbine that's very, very promising in terms of cost because it's already very close in terms of mass of metal and steel to what the offshore wind industry is doing. So we have good hopes for this one as well. They're building a second device which should go in the water in January next year. The final one, also floating, are smaller devices. This is a barge with 4 devices at the back. You can see 2 of them that are being propped up, and the other 2 are closer to the center of the device. They're actually underwater. That's a device from a German and British collaboration company. They couldn't install in Europe because they were lacking market, but they found a feed-in tariff in Canada, and this is a perfect example basically to show that Tidal is at a stage where if you find the market and if you have revenue support in a given country, it's highly likely that they will be able to deploy pilot farms and pre-commercial farms and right up to industrialization. Now moving on to Wave. Wave has seen a steady growth in cumulative capacity. Wave is at a completely different stage from Tidal. In Wave, we are installing full-scale prototypes in the water, more or less depending on the years, as you can see on the screen. But we already had a few stats, so I wanted to show you a few pictures of the most recent projects. This is one by AW Energy, a Finnish company. They installed in Portugal, so you can see international collaboration is very clearly the case in ocean energy. You can also see the size of the device. There is a small man at the very center of it, of the picture, next to the flap. It's a flapping device, so it goes up and down with the waves. It's fairly big device. We're hoping to get some data from it very soon. It's a very exciting project. Another very nice project from Core Power, a Swedish company. They tested in Orkney Islands in the north of Scotland. Very successful test run. It's a device that floats up and down, and they are currently looking at financing the phase 4 of their development, which is going to be a full-scale device, and then another 3 next to that. So if you have a bit of money on the side, now is probably a good time to invest. Give us a ring and we'll put you in touch. A final one and a third concept. This is an air turbine. You can see the turbine, the white bit being craned onto the device on the top here. This is a bit of a counterintuitive device because the water is actually supposed to get into it, despite the fact that it's floating. So on the right side, the water enters and it pushes the air through the turbine. So it's an air turbine that generates electricity. It's a device built by an Irish company in the US, installed in Hawaii. So again, you can see that despite the fact that we are emerging, we are already very much international. Now, what's on the to-do list to get these technologies off the ground? Well, for Tidal, it's fairly simple. We need more farms in the water. For Wave, we need to still validate the prototypes. We need to make sure which of them are the best technologies, which technologies fit best for which resource. Both of them need finance for innovation, and this is what I'm going to focus on in the next few slides. Because you need different finance at different stages, and we've thought up of 3 key actions that can bring ocean energy to industrialization. When you want to finance R&D and prototypes, you need research money, and the best way to do that is something that has been devised by the industry, in fact, in Europe. It's a phase gate process. The idea is that any device right up until commercialization, you're going to build in phases, and you're going to need help along the way to do that. So a phase gate process can give you money for each phase, and if you complete successfully your phase, and if you pass that particular gate, then you get the money for the next phase, and if you pass the next gate, then you get money for the next gate, etc., etc. So it enables to spread quite early on across different companies and technologies, but to funnel the most successful innovations right down to industrialization. So to keep the best ones that basically are able to progress. Now, the pilot farm level, I'm going to focus on in the next few slides. So blended finance and revenue support, what's needed. To roll out a renewable technology, we know what's needed. It's basically revenue support. We've done it for wind and solar. So this is fairly standard. Now, again, I want to come back to this demonstration stage because this is very much where Tidal is and where we will be in the next few years. You need CapEx support, you need investment aid for those stages. So you need public grants, you need public equity, you need public loans. All of these can help private investors to actually invest their capital in it. For equity and loan, though, whether it's private or public, you always have a dividend or an interest rate that you need to repay. And this comes on top of your operating expenditure. So it comes on top of your annual costs. And because these annual costs are higher than the current electricity price in pretty much any country, sometimes in islands you have very high electricity prices, but other than that, it's very much below the annual cost. So this is why you need revenue support to basically offset the low electricity price and make these technologies reach financial close. It can be a feed-in tariff, it can be a ROC certificate. It doesn't really matter. We know how to build these successfully. We know how to avoid basically overpayments. We know how to do this. We just need to do it for ocean energy. We could also think about an insurance and guarantee fund, but this goes beyond the range of this webinar. And I'm going to stop here and hand it back to Martina. Thank you very much, and I look forward to speaking to the questions. Judit, I'm making you presenter again.
Sorry, I didn't unmute myself quickly enough. Thank you, Alessandra, Judit, Rémi. What an insightful presentation on types of energy, ocean energy, and their potential in terms of revenue stream and business models. But without any delay, though, because we receive a lot of questions, let me go directly to them. And let me start the first one for IRENA. How can IRENA help the development of ocean energy in emerging economies and island territories?
Sure. So IRENA is carrying out multiple activities in this field, and mainly, well, we mentioned today, Judith show a sneak peek about the study, and this will have also a chapter on island opportunities and how they can benchmark other, let's say, projects that are out there. As well, I think other emerging economies as well can benefit from IRENA activities in terms of the different events that we have. We have capacity building events with other, let's say, with policymakers, with private sector, industry, academia. And this is a great place or a great hub to exchange experiences and knowledge. And I would like just to give just 2 more points here. That is, lately we had a request from IRENA member countries to establish a collaborative platform of ocean energy and offshore renewables. And this is mainly to exchange experiences among countries. And here we see a great opportunity for also these emerging economies and island territories to participate. And yes, Martina, I see these points. And if I can add also in line with our presentation, we are looking as well holistically in the ocean energy as part of the blue economy. So we also think that we can have more discussions with other island territories, emerging economies, and their role on how to be part of this blue economy and benefit from it.
Thank you, Alessandra. Another question, probably for Rémi. Is ocean energy getting subsidies that other forerunners, such as wind and solar, benefited from?
So we are, but not quite enough at this stage. We are getting quite a bit of support from the European level for the CapEx side of things that I was mentioning earlier. So it's investment aid in the form of grants, in the form of guaranteed loans. And there is a platform on providing public equity from Europe that is being developed at the moment. So that's available, but we still miss the revenue support part, which is something that member states or basically state government need to worry about. This is something that will enable the projects to actually reach financial close, and that will also tell investors that this is something worth investing in the long term. So that part is actually missing. We do not have anywhere near the levels of revenue support that the wind or solar industry received at the beginning. The good news is that we are already a bit cheaper than what was needed at the beginning of solar. So a revenue support around 300 euros a megawatt hour versus, for example, for solar, I think it started around 800 in the time, would be enough to get some machines and pilot farms off the ground. So yeah.
Thank you, Rémi. Another question for IRENA. Is land ownership an issue? Usually heard of land issue for PV and wind. How about ocean energy? Thanks.
Yes, this is an important point to consider. So at the moment, around over 2/3 of all the oceans are not governed by a specific nation government. So there is quite a lot of uncertainty and disputes over that land. And as I presented with the blue economy side, there are different economies that are already very active. So particularly shipping and oil and gas sector, but also fisheries and aquaculture. So it is really important to consider this and to work together to do marine spatial planning and to analyze the oceans properly in order to, before starting such projects.
Thank you, Judit. For Rémi, there are a couple of questions, so I will put them together. There is a lot of questions about the effect of ocean energy and blue economy on marine life. So what is your take on that? Thank you.
It's a very positive take on that. The studies we in fact were publishing with the Ocean report very soon on environmental impacts and what really to fear and what not to fear. The studies that we've seen so far are all going in one direction, is that the impacts are extremely limited or non-existent in some cases. We're specifically looking, learning from the wind industry at sea mammals, impacts on the seabed, noise impacts, etc. And So far, we haven't seen a single collision on all the farms that we've put in the water and that have been monitored by that. We had an orca come and scratch himself on one of the turbines one day, and the engineers got really scared because it's a huge beast, and they were actually scared he was going to damage the turbine rather than the other way around. But nothing happened, and he left. Looked fairly happy about the service provided. So we're basically really monitoring this closely. It's not something we wanna joke with. It's something that we're in this industry because we believe that there is a place for technology that is also climate and environmentally sound, and this is really something we're considering. We'll need more research, of course, as the industry goes and puts more turbines in the water.
Martina, also, if I could add on that question, as I see there's many questions on regards of the environment and its impact. And I also want to echo on Rémi's response. I am aware that there's different studies also from the United States. There's a platform also in Europe, a collaborative platform on environmental monitoring as well. And as Rémi is saying, they're looking at if there's tangling with the marine systems, if there's any effect from the electromagnetism on species, migration of the species. And so far, there's no evidence, like strong evidence, that there's an impact. So yes, I think it's a very important point from the participants today, but to see that research and scientific research so far have seen that these technologies are okay in, let's say, in ocean environment.
Thank you, Ala. That's very positive news.
Still, of course, we have to still understand more, and as the technology deploys widely, we have to also keep on the research and the studies to see how these technologies behave as well.
Great. We have a lot of questions, but we are running out of time, so I will have one more question for both sides. So for IRENA, since ocean energy technologies are very cost intensive, which political support system would be the best to develop ocean energy resources or sources? Thanks.
Sure. So I think this is also tackled now with the new report that we're developing and publishing in the upcoming months. And this about looking these new pathways on how to reach commercialization. And today, Judit showed you partly of the insights we have there. So a way we see is, it was not shown, but then ocean energy technologies can be also hybridized in the same device with other technologies, or having solar panels on top, or even wave energy converters are being explored with turbines, so with wind turbines as well at the same time. So we're looking into this hybridization as well, this coupling with other sectors, trying to gain these new revenue streams. So from where we can get, let's say, more gains or more economical gains to that technology. So in a way, we're looking into those pathways, and nonetheless, I think, of course, as Rémi highlighted, revenue support is key from governments, and as well, other countries have piloted a feed-in tariff that can also help as well to bring these technologies more on board into the market. So these are some of the measures we see, but there are many others. In case Rémi wants to add anything as well.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alessandra. Yeah, indeed. So I just want to highlight as well that obviously the new technologies, they are emerging, so they are more expensive because we need to develop them. But also there are technologies where we have seen that the economic impact is very much localized around the area of installation. Again, it can be a fairly large area, but these are technologies where you're not going to be exporting money. These are technologies where the jobs you're going to be creating are going to be in your country or in your neighboring regions, and you're going to have a larger amount of that than if you import diesel or if you import fuel and burn it. Generally, renewable technologies produce more jobs per kilowatt hour than gas, for example, or coal. So that's really the first thing to keep in mind. Is the return on investment is very good from an economic perspective. And again, to add on what Alessandra was saying, I really think it depends on the stage of development you're at. If you're looking at Tidal, you need this combination of CapEx support and revenue support. The minute you have a number of farms in the water in your country, it will be pretty clear that revenue support is going to be the main way forward in terms of support. If you want to develop waves, then I would recommend a mix of grants and maybe some support as well a bit further down the line on revenues or some loan if you go into the pilot fund. But Wave at the moment, Wave still needs a bit of crowdfunding.
Thank you. Maybe I will finish with a simple question. Why is ocean energy more predictable than solar or wind energy? Rémi, maybe?
Yeah, maybe I'll take that. Well, for two different reasons. Tidal energy is basically driven by the moon attracting bodies of water 4 times a day in a different direction. So we know the movements of the moon. The Mayas, thousands of years ago, knew the movement of the moon, and I can tell you exactly where the moon is going to be and thus how much this machine will produce in 10 years on Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. This is absolutely 100% predictable. For Wave, it's a bit different. The waves we're using are driven by the wind. So the advantage that we have versus the wind industry is that when the wind starts, the wind turbines start blowing immediately. So they have a shorter time frame, if you like, for the prediction of how much they're going to produce. Now, when the wind starts building up the waves, and progressively the waves are going to be big enough that they also are going to generate enough power to turn our own turbines. So, and because of that, we know a bit in advance when the wind comes that there are going to be waves right after it. And also, more importantly, maybe for the complementarity that we were talking about at the beginning of the webinar, the waves are not going to stop immediately with the wind because the water is very heavy, it's more dense. So the wind will basically store its energy, bring the waves up, and the waves are going to stay a long time. We're estimating at the moment around 3 hours, but there are a lot of studies looking at this. So the waves are going to stay a long time after the wind dies out. So this really brings back to evidence the complementarity between wind and wave. So the wind starts, then the wave starts as well. Both are producing, then the wind stops, but the waves continue, and then the wind starts again, and the cycle can start again. So that's a bit why it's so predictable.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, the time is up. A lot of insightful questions to choose from. So thank you very much for all of them, and thank you so much to let us learn from all of you, Alessandra, Judit, and Rémi, about all the challenges and opportunities in the ocean energy space. And Alessandra and Judit, we look forward to reading your upcoming report. Let me finish this very interesting webinar with a couple of final announcements. So to be able to reflect on the delivery of our webinar and ways to improve it, we will appreciate your feedback. We'd like to invite you to complete a very short satisfactory survey, which will appear at the end of the webinar on your screen, and the link will be shared with you also in the follow-up email. We are monitoring your comments, and we work on selecting topics of your interest and trying to shift times of webinars to accommodate various time zones. So thank you in advance for completing the survey. And last but not least, we would like to invite you all to our next edition of this webinar series on the IRENA Flex tool and on assessing power system flexibility to integrate a higher share of renewables. So two years back in 2018, IRENA published the report Power System Flexibility for the Energy Transition, together with the publicly and freely available tool IRENA Flex tool. This tool was then used to perform flexibility assessment for Colombia, Panama, Uruguay, and Thailand. So, and this webinar will review the concept of flexibility proposed 2 years ago, and will present you with the latest version of the Flex tool, which was launched 2 weeks ago. The webinar will take place in 2 weeks' time, again on Tuesday, 26th of May at 4 p.m. Central European Time, and you can already register on our IRENA website, and the link is shared here in the presentation with you, which you can download from the handout section, and it will be again shared with you in the follow-up email. So that is all from us for today. Once again, thank you, Alessandra, Judit, Rémi, for your insight, and thank you all for attending this webinar. Goodbye, and see you soon.
Thank you, Martina. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.